David Joyner is an American author who has 21 years bond with Vietnam. Coming to Vietnam from late 1994 as a volunteer teacher, he was one of the 2 Americans working in Vietnam in 1995, the first year Vietnam and the United States formally normalized the relations. After 20 years, both Vietnam and the US are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the normalization of the relation. David published his first novel named LOTUSLAND. The novel, with 400 pages, tells a love story of an American writer, Nathan Monroe, with one Vietnamese painter. They have overcome many difficulties, cultural barriers to come together. The book is the memories, emotions, and life in Vietnam of Nathan. The reader seems to see the author's own story through Nathan's words.
Nathan had a few hours to kill before his train departed. Rather than continue working on his article, he decided to make the short walk from his hotel to Hoan Kiem Lake in the center of Hanoi. Although the rain had let up 2 hours before, the skies were threatening again. Gum tree canopies along the lake's perimeter shook from the gusting wind. The surface of Hoan Kiem trembled, making the pagoda on the lake's grassy island seem isolated and frail.
Sticking with Asia and choosing Vietnam as the first long stopover, David understands about the country and the people of Vietnam no less than the indigenous people. He loves everything belongs to Vietnam and brought them to his novel. LOTUSLAND, or a love story between an American and a Vietnamese, seems to be the embodiment of the US-Vietnam relationship after much effort from both sides in strengthening and promoting the spirit of friendship and partnership.
Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam, coming to us on VTC10 Netviet. The program today will bring us the story of an American who fell in love with the country of Vietnam, and he decided to create a novel featuring the land and the people here in our country. Especially through this novel, the readers will see the relation about Vietnam and the United States. After 20 years of normalization, please welcome the guest speaker today. Hello, David, and thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, David, at first, what brought you to Vietnam and stay here for about 21 years?
Sure. The first time I came to Vietnam was in 1994, and I had been working at a place called the Asia Foundation in San Francisco for a division there called Partners for International Education and Training. But after about 6 months there, the Asia Foundation decided to drop the department I was working for. And my supervisor at the time suggested that for my next job that I apply to be a volunteer teacher in Vietnam, because at that time Vietnam had just sort of opened up, and it was a very unique opportunity to become one of the first Americans to come back to Vietnam. It was before normalization, before a U.S. embassy or consulate had been set up here. So I thought it sounded like a very interesting adventure, and I was interested in coming back to Asia. I had been in Japan before that, and I ended up coming to Hanoi for 6 weeks to study the language and to become acclimated to the culture. And then I went to Bien Hoa for 1 year, and I taught at a teacher training college there.
In such a long time, what are the things in Vietnam that made you impressed?
There are a lot of things that made me impressed. I think, first of all, what fascinates me so much about Vietnam are just the differences between where I'm from in the Midwest in the United States and Vietnam. With that fascination comes a level of respect and admiration and that kind of thing. But I think what impresses me the most is just the openness of the society. That has not changed in 21 years. It's something that attracted me initially. People are here very curious, they're very outgoing, and that makes it very easy to talk to people and learn from them about their lives and about the culture. And it makes it easy to make friends as well. So that's something that I've always found really attractive. It's given me a way into the culture, and I've found that really fascinating.
And all those feature reasons that inspired you to write a novel, LOTUSLAND, about the land, the people in Vietnam?
In part, but I think those things gave me insights into the culture and also into my own life here in Vietnam as a foreigner, because the book is about foreigners living in Vietnam, and so a lot of what happens in the book is based on my own experiences here off and on over those 21 years, and also people that I've gotten to know here, stories that they've shared with me.
We see that the LOTUSLAND features the story about the relation of an American and a Vietnamese painter. So were they inspired by a real story?
That was completely made up. But Vietnamese lacquer painting is something that I've always admired. I find it very beautiful and it's very unique. And the history and the techniques are very unique to Vietnam also, although I know there are traditions for lacquer painting in places like China, Korea, and Japan. But I had access to some scholars and some painters at the Fine Arts University in Hanoi, and also some friends of mine who were lacquer painters. And so I had the opportunity to interview them and learn a lot about lacquer painting in Vietnam, and it's something that I wanted to share with readers. I wanted to bring culture into the book, which was not an easy thing to do, but I think I found a way, and sharing lacquer painting with a Western audience is something that I wanted to do from the very start of the book.
The novel LOTUSLAND were published from March 2015 in the US, and until July 2015, the readers in Vietnam can know and hold on their hands the book. After 21 years bond with Vietnam, living in Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Mũi Né, and Biên Hòa, David has moved to live in Japan for a few years now. However, he regularly comes back to Vietnam to visit his friends and recently to introduce the novel.
Nhà văn David đã đến Việt Nam từ năm 1994 và có một thời gian dài sinh sống và làm việc ở Việt Nam. Vì vậy, có thể nói là David có một cái sự hiểu biết khá là tường tận về văn hóa và con người Việt Nam. Vậy nên những câu chuyện được thể hiện qua tác phẩm nó rất là tự nhiên, có thể dễ dàng đi sâu vào tâm hồn của người đọc.
LOTUSLAND expressed the life of young American writer Nathan in Vietnam, including the difficulties from the first days to become familiar with the country and the people. After graduating from university, Nathan decided to come to Vietnam to work. Vietnam is a very new and different experience for the young man. He faced many difficulties in working and communicating with the local people. We seem to see the life from first days in Vietnam of author David behind Nathan's image. David spent 7 years to write this novel. In 7 years, he put all his knowledge about Vietnam in LOTUSLAND. When first published in the US in March 2015, LOTUSLAND received an enthusiastic welcome from American readers. They shared many active thoughts about a modern and developing Vietnam.
Các độc giả bên Mỹ có thể hiểu thêm về những phong cách văn hóa của Việt Nam, và ngoài ra thì các độc giả Việt Nam nếu đọc cuốn tiểu thuyết này thì có thể hiểu thêm về những khó khăn của người nước ngoài khi sang Việt Nam sinh sống.
Nó cũng sẽ giúp cho người đọc một phần hiểu về một Việt Nam mà đang cố gắng đổi mới nhưng mà cũng vẫn giữ được những cái nét xưa cũ của Việt Nam, nó không bị mất cái bản sắc, không bị làm mất cái bản sắc của chính mình.
How did the process of writing the novel help you to understand more and better about the people and the land of Vietnam?
It gave me a chance to research, to kind of focus my research on certain areas that I've always been interested in, and that includes Agent Orange. Of course, I've always known about Agent Orange, and living in Bien Hoa and Dom Nai, Agent Orange was used quite a bit during the war there. And I was able to visit Tu Yu Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City, and I spoke with the Red Cross and other people. I helped with a photo exhibition of Agent Orange sufferers, and that brought me a lot closer to contemporary Vietnamese culture. But I think also writing the book just helped me sort of understand better my own experiences here. The book isn't about me, but by exploring my characters' lives and getting deeper and deeper into the story I was trying to tell, it sort of clarified some issues for me and just helped me gain a deeper understanding, I think.
We see that through the novel LOTUSLAND, the reader can see more about the relation between the two countries, Vietnam and the US. So just wonder that the publishing of this book in this year is intentionally or just random?
It wasn't initially. It took me about 2.5 years for the book to be published after it was accepted. But it coincided with the 40th anniversary of the end of the war. So the book actually came out on March 1st of 2015, and the 40th anniversary of the end of the war was, of course, April 30th, 2015. So that was kind of the intention for the release date of the book.
And through this novel, what message that you want to deliver to readers in Vietnam and America?
Not sure that I had an actual message from the beginning when I started it, but I think one of my intentions was to present Vietnam today to an American readership, to a Western readership, and too many Americans especially associate Vietnam with the war. They don't know Vietnam as anything but the war. They associate it with very popular movies, American movies about the war, or other novels that have been written about the war. But there's a huge gap in American literature about Vietnam. There are very, very few novels set in today's Vietnam. So one of my intentions was to give American readers access to what Vietnam is like today, at least through the perspective of my main character, who's an American at 28.
And in coming time, do you intend to write another book about Vietnam, or just come back Vietnam anytime?
Yeah, I'm currently writing another book that's set in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam and also northeastern Cambodia. The book is set almost entirely on the Mekong River, but it takes place in the early 1990s. So it's not so much contemporary Vietnam, but it is post-war Vietnam, and it's not about the war. So hopefully I can get that book finished fairly soon. And in the future, I'd very much like to continue to write about Vietnam.
And this question has wrapped up our talk show today. Thank you so much, David, for spending time with us today. I'm looking forward to seeing your new book in Vietnam.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That concludes our show for today. Thank you so much for watching us. Any comments or recommendations, please send us an email to showingvietnam@netviettv.net. Thank you and see you again.